This pile is just a small part of the debris recovered from the Temple Mount. Over the years, the Temple Mount Sifting Project has uncovered a treasure trove of artifacts, like this piece of pottery, throughout Jerusalem's history.
For 2,000 years, a chamber beneath the Temple Mount remained sealed from the rest of the world. Well, that was until some researchers took it upon themselves to breach this sacred ground. Following this, they found a stone basin that was etched in the Paleo-Hebrew language, which gave us biblical narratives of the Holy of Holies. The issue now is that the ancient bodies that sealed this chamber did so in a way that was supposed to be final. They sealed every staircase while blocking all the entrances they could with rubble. As a result, we are forced to believe that whatever was in there was supposed to be kept away from the world for the rest of all time. With that in mind, we are left to wonder why they chose to do so, especially as the burial site seems to be underneath the most contested piece of land in the world. The tragedy. Back in 1999, we found that Islamic Waqf figured that they wanted to begin construction of a new underground mosque underneath what was known to be Solomon's stables. This was a problematic move because it was done without the consent of the Israeli authorities. Furthermore, it was conducted without archaeological supervision. This was a terrain move, especially as it involved the removal of soil from underneath one of the most historically significant sites in the entire world. To make matters worse, this soil was dumped in the Kidron Valley, as if it was garbage. This was a painful move to swallow because if you look at it, the Temple Mount has huge significance to all three of the Abrahamic religions. For example, you will find that in the book of Genesis, this hill was referred to as Mount Moriah. Christians will know this place very well because this was where God instructed Abraham to sacrifice his only son Isaac in a test of faith. On the other hand, it will be massively significant to the followers of Judaism, as this was where King Solomon built the first temple nearly 3,000 years ago. It was also the home of the Ark of the Covenant. Sure, the first temple was destroyed by the Babylonians before the Romans destroyed the second version in 70 CE, but this is still a place of huge significance to Judaism. Finally, you'd find that to the Muslims, this was considered to be the noble sanctuary where Muhammad ascended to heaven. With that in mind, you can feel the pain all three religions must have felt when they heard of the activities that took place on the Temple Mount. It would have been enough to spark unrest in the region. The move was so tumultuous that when some Israeli archaeologists got wind of what the Waqf Muslims were up to on the sacred ground, they were almost brought to their knees with pain. Although thousands of years of history was ripped out of their place, two researchers saw this as a chance to learn more about the history of this sacred ground. First, there was Gabriel Barquet, who has spent his whole career studying the history of Jerusalem, so much so that he is credited with making one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. This involved the unearthing of tiny silver scrolls that were inscribed with the oldest biblical texts ever recorded. Although he was in his 60s when the Temple Mount was unceremoniously dug up, he felt it more than most. Unwilling to let 3 millennia of human history go to waste, he strapped his boots up and got his colleague, Zaki Devira, to work. Together the pair embarked on the Temple Mount Sifting Project. Working out of a public park in East Jerusalem, the pair proceeded to recover what had been lost in the digging up of the Temple Mount. Thanks to the help of volunteers who joined them in their endeavor, they were able to sift through all the soil that was discarded during the excavation of the sacred ground. This proved to be a great job done because they actually came across more than 500,000 ancient artifacts. We're talking about coins that could be traced back to the time of King Herod to arrowheads from the time of the Crusades. Truly unbelievable stuff. It almost makes you wonder why the Waqf Muslims decided to execute what could be considered to be a sacrilegious act. As great as these discoveries were, the best was yet to come. After some time, a volunteer came across this unassuming-looking, small, hardened lump of clay. It had been flattened, and the sands of time proved to give it cracks, much akin to the wrinkles on our grandparents. Still, the archaeologists decided that they were going to look into it some more. That is when they discovered that this was a bulla. To those who may not know, this is an ancient seal impression that was used to secure official documents back in the days of old. Looking further to the inscriptions of the ancient seal, we found that it was inscribed with Paleo-Hebrew words, which were translated to say, belonging to Gedal-Yahu, son of Immer. Many of us may not be familiar with the name Immer, but the followers of Judaism may know that the name appears in the book of Jeremiah and is considered to be a priestly family that was active during the First Temple period. Thanks to this tiny piece of clay, we can actually confirm that this person or this family was real. To our astonishment, the volunteers came across more bulls that were inscribed with the names of ancient people or families that existed all those years ago. As fascinating as this may be, the real catch here is that the temple artifacts were not scattered around in a random manner. It actually looked like they were concentrated in specific areas of the mount. These sections also seemed to correspond with ancient descriptions of sacred zones in the region. As such, one can say that not only did the sifting project help us recover lost artifacts, you could also say that it helped us develop a map that could be used to take us back in time. All the scientists needed to do at that point was to trace them to their source, the concealed network. Following the COVID-19 outbreak in the years 2021 to 2024, a new group of archaeologists and researchers made use of modern-day tech to take a look at some abandoned historical documents. This time, they decided to focus on the southern end of the Temple Mount, especially a region that was close to the Western Wall tunnels. You'd find that back in the Ottoman and the Mandate eras, British surveyors had actually got to work so that they could map strange underground tunnels in this spot. That is why the volunteers were able to come across several chambers, staircases, and hollow spaces that just could not be explained. However, the course of time led to the abandonment of reports that told us of such spaces, so much so that they were even dismissed as being incomplete or totally unreliable. Thanks to this new team of archaeologists, we were able to verify the documents and the spaces they referred to. That said, since the excavation of the space beneath the Temple Mount proved to be forbidden, they had to make use of ground-penetrating radar. This is the same technology that was used to detect hidden chambers within the Great Pyramid of Gaza. To the great pleasure of the archaeologists, the scans revealed something that was truly unbelievable. Man-made stones that had been sealed away for hundreds of years. This was truly fascinating, as this should have been a place where natural geological structures should have been resting. Following this discovery, the researchers overlaid the radar data with hand-drawn British maps from the early 20th century, and to their utmost surprise and pleasure, the outlines of both sets of data actually matched. Not only did they feature the same corridors and the same staircases, they even matched with the same strange-looking voids. Truly unbelievable. Thanks to modern-day technology, these archaeologists were finally able to confirm what generations of explorers had thought for quite a long time. That said, it wasn't all bed and roses for our researchers. As the workers got to work clearing out all the soil and debris in this region, they also discovered a partially buried staircase that had been built into limestone. Eerily enough, this set of stairs descended into a dark void. Eager to get to the bottom of this set of staircases, the explorers did what they did best, so they followed it, only to discover that it led to a forgotten antechamber. Within it, there were upper walls that were marked with Byzantine carvings, faded crosses, and inscriptions that could be traced back to the 4th or 5th centuries. Looking at the features on the walls, it was safe to say that this space must have served as an early Christian worshiping ground. As if that wasn't fascinating enough, the researchers investigated some more, so much so that they found something that was even older within this hidden space. As if that wasn't eerie enough, the team also came across a secondary set of staircases. Although they were in bad shape, they went even deeper into the bedrock. The strange thing about them was that they looked as though they had been deliberately blocked off by someone, so that they could possibly hide what lay within this region. The Subterranean machine. As the researchers developed a map of this territory, they came across something that changed their opinion of the place entirely. This was a network of underground tunnels and channels that were carved into the bedrocks. Large and vast, this system of tunnels and aqueducts were built with such sophistication that it was almost unbelievable that it was built so many years ago. In fact, they were so sophisticated that you almost won't believe that it was built long before the Romans or the Herodians. In fact, carbon dating of the rocks in the network told us that it was built by those people who lived when the first temple was built. As much as the age of the system was fascinating enough, you'd find that the design was even more captivating. Thanks to the fantastic features, such as narrow feeding tunnels that allowed rainwater runoff to fill reservoirs, or overflow ducts that redirected excess water from the building. It must have been a state-of-art building for its time. Add the fact that some of these features could be traced to some of the pages of the Bible, and you can see how sacred this place must have been back in the day. We must do our best to preserve such wonders of nature. Maybe one day they can unlock additional chambers that still lie hidden within this sacred site.